The first one is talking about the latest thing of Google NotebookLM. And if you have not used it yet, you absolutely should, because it's a neat thing and it's free, and it's the best thing I would say that Google has released since it's jumped into the AI arms race, and it has gotten off to a pretty terrible start, but this is a game changer for them.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. You showed me the example, and Andrew's going to show it again pretty soon. But I was surprised with the quality, and it actually sounded like a real podcast. Like I've heard AI voices kind of talk and sound reasonable, but they don't. The dialogue, the conversing together, is the impressive part.
Yes. So basically, what it does, if you just Google Notebook LM, and you hop over there, you can set it up. Maybe I'll just share my screen for a minute. Where do I do this? What do you see now? What am I on? Do you see the Medium article?
I see the. Yeah, now I do. Now I do.
All right. So this is my article on medium.com. I think maybe a lot of you have seen some of my articles there, and that's how you even got into seeing what we're all about. But I wrote this recently. I'm just going here. I talked about Google Notebook LM, and what I want to do is just play what it made. But I guess before I do that, the idea with Notebook LM is you can upload anything to it, any PDFs, website links, just text files, whatever. And then you say, you basically press one button, and I'll just show you quickly. So I think that this is when I'm in here. So you just upload a bunch of stuff into here, into this chat, and then you click load, which I'm not going to do. That takes a few minutes. But then what they do is they create a whole conversation, which is really neat, of two real life like sounding people having a dialogue about that topic. So it's an interesting way to learn a new topic, and it's pretty impressive that they're able to do it because they sound lifelike. You don't have to put anything in there, or you don't have to put much training or anything. And it's a one click deal, and it sounds like a real sort of morning show, but it could be about a complicated topic, and it makes it's a different way to learn about it. And it's pretty impressive. So I'm just going to play the audio file here for about, I don't know, a minute, just so you get the idea of what I made. So what I typed into this, I just said, make a dialogue about, what was it? Earning money with affiliate marketing using AI. And I actually put that into Chat GPT and then cut and pasted whatever they said and threw it into Google Notebook LM. And then they made this whole dialogue. So here it is.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Today we're diving into the world of AI. But not just any AI. We're talking about AI that can create podcasts that sound like you and me having a chat.
Right.
And how this can help boost affiliate sales.
Okay, so we're looking at AI in the context of affiliate marketing.
Exactly. And the really interesting thing is this isn't about, replacing us with robots.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's about giving people a new tool to make the most of what they're already creating.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So how does it work? What kind of AI are we talking about specifically?
Well, we actually looked at a bunch of different articles, but the one that really stood out was about Google's Notebook LM. Have you heard of that?
I have. I'm really interested to see where they're going with it.
Yeah, me too. And this seems to be it. So basically, instead of just hoping people will read your blog post,
right,
you can feed them to this tool and it'll transform them into a podcast conversation.
Wow. That's wild.
Right. And it's not just reading the blog post out loud.
So it's like a conversation about the content.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
I know. Let's say you've got a post about the top productivity tools for freelancers.
All right, so I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. Are we back on at? I think you get the idea, but that is pretty impressive. Honestly, it probably at this point, since this is our first one for a while, they probably sounded better than we do at this point, to be fair.
I think they sounded great. And the cool thing about it is they can also give a summary of, the article or whatever you feed them, get it to give analogies and explain it in an easier ways, especially if it's a complex topic. That's what I like about it. And it's not just the article regurgitated, which is you've seen that in a lot of things. It just plays it. It's not that at all. It actually is a pretty good podcast about the topic.
So like it adds some insight. It's like two people discussing something, and the person who it's almost like a teacher and a student, and the student could ask some interesting questions, or can you explain that a little more, or perhaps give an analogy. And it's an easier way to understand a topic often, to have that interaction rather than just reading something or listening to an article being read. Another thing I've seen people do in terms of earning money from it is they'll have a blog on their website. They'll take that blog, put it in there, and then they'll create this dialogue. Then they download the audio file and put that into, like, at the top. So it's different content, it's more content, and then it increases stuff like the time on site. So people might read the article, they might click on that, and it adds a multimedia layer. You'll learn that we don't care that much about SEO anymore. We used to, and we still get a lot of Google traffic. There's a whole long story with that. Oh, Google's changing. It's so AI based. But the point is, currently, that kind of stuff probably does work to some extent, just to take that, add that interesting content and throw it on each blog. That is one use case of it. Can you think of any others other than just sort of learning something for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's cool if you embed the topics that are already there and just have it in a different format. And I don't know if you'd use it and try to pass it on as a real podcast, but you probably could if you really had good prompts and good topics. It would be interesting to do a case study where you actually turn that into a podcast and see how you did on iTunes or whatever.
I'm sure people will do that. It will get flooded. They'll probably start banning that if if that's all you're going to do. But on some obscure topic where there isn't a lot of competition, that might be useful. Another thing is, because it does add interesting insight, what you could do is start with some information, put it in there, get the entire dialogue, which is just like a new thing, take the audio, transcribe that back into text, whatever they say, and then make an article based on those new insights, which could be a slightly different one. I haven't tried that yet, but it seems like a reasonable way to get new insight onto some content. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's great just for summarizing something. If you don't want to read a whole long thing, you could just have that part as the audio as well. You don't necessarily have to have a long podcast about it. You could just probably just say, make me a summary of it that's shorter than the article and I can listen to it. So if you're driving or whatever, you're at the gym, you can listen to the article as when you where you can't read it.
Listen to it in the podcast format rather than like a read the article to you type of thing. The other thing that I think where we are going, I mean, you can kind of do this now with ChatGPT, I suppose, but is train, like, you interact with that podcast. So you can basically be a human guest. You can't do this right now, but if you could be a human guest with those two hosts, so you're the third one, and you can on if they can on the fly adjust what they're saying to what you are going to say, that could be really neat. Like if we had those two on this podcast right now, if we're, not thinking about, basically they might add some interesting points if we could just throw it over to them sometimes and then, ask them to clarify, basically like they're real guests. That's how realistic they sound, and they seem pretty knowledgeable. They weren't making anything up, but it did seem, pseudo creative. So I think that would be neat, and that's probably where we're going. I was impressed with how lifelike it is and how creative it seemed, because it wasn't, I don't know, impressed me across the board.
Yeah, as soon as it gets to be real time, we will definitely have, at least as a trial guest, an AI host or co-host or whatever you want to call it, and hopefully we can ask them questions and getting them researching answers while we're babbling about it. And they can do fact checks and stuff in real time and say like, "Hey, you guys missed something, or you might want to share this."
Yeah, so that's definitely where we're going. And then you're not just listening to AI, you're using it to augment what you're doing, keeping humans in the loop, but adding that's sort of a key too. I think some people get lazy with it and they think, wouldn't that be great? We can just click a button and then you have all this AI stuff. The problem is it's the same thing as why not give everyone $10 million, is it's not going to work. Because if you have that technology, so does everybody else. So what? You're going to make, a blog with 7 million articles. And I read an article where somebody did that and it was working for a while. But like if everybody has that, then there's not enough people to read it and everything will get buried. So you have to think about what can you do to keep yourself in the loop and what can you do to add some personality or whatever. Because if you think it's going to be 100% AI and you do nothing with just a click, well, everybody is going to have that. Um, Everybody has that thought. Let's put it that way. It's not going to work. Um, so anyway, that could be good for that topic. Before we get into the next one, what are your thoughts on that overall?
I think the thing with that type of content, if everyone can do it, it becomes kind of the same thing. So even though you could, even if they were decent articles, they're all regurgitated, all the same content. So effectively, they're useless because they're already there. It's already been said. If you don't have any real opinions or any distinctions, you shouldn't be producing that with AI or yourself anyway. There's no point doing that anymore, because the information's there. If you're going to say nothing, you should probably just say nothing.
I guess I would have to agree with that ad. So to conclude, you need to keep yourself in the loop to some extent, add some insight, or you're just going to be, in the sea of garbage with everybody else.